Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. So the talk of the town today is President Joe Biden's op-ed in the Wall Street Journal entitled, "My Plan for Fighting Inflation." Now, there are a lot of ways to read this, but one thought I have is this little essay is basically signaling that he is trying to prepare folks for some very bad economic news ahead. He says he's not going to meddle with the Fed as they jack up interest rates and pull cash out of the economy, but he knows full well that the economy is already moving toward recession. That recession part is what all the gobbledygook words concerning transition are about. Transition. He's trying to make the case that miraculously, inflation's going to come down from 10% without job losses or without a higher unemployment rate. Now, that thought is a major triumph of hope over experience, and he knows that. Other than this futile attempt to get ahead of the recession curve, there was really nothing new in Biden's so-called inflation-fighting plan. There's no domestic spending freeze. He still wants to spend on housing and child care and elderly care and undoubtedly the usual Build Back Better agenda. He's still banking on a fossil-free economy with more subsidies for various Green New Deal projects. Remember, last week in Japan, he was talking about transitioning to a fossil fuel economy. Remember that? No, a fossil-free economy, more to the point. The Bidens are not unhappy with record gas prices at the pump. They're not unhappy with even today's $120 world oil price. How's that strategic petroleum reserve sale working for you? And let me repeat my view that a fossil-free economy would generate a permanent recession with millions of job losses that would combine high unemployment with high inflation at the same time. In other words, a disaster. Mr. Biden wants to spend more on infrastructure, but his own EPA, with its hugely restrictive environmental impact reviews, is not only stopping fossil fuels and pipelines, but also highways, bridges, roads, and tunnels as well. The president still wants national prescription drug price controls. He's still attacking profitable businesses. If he really wanted an inflation to come down, he would open the spigots for oil and gas production. But that's not what he wants. He talks about reducing the federal deficit, but that reduction is a one-time event from the end of emergency spending, assisted by a huge revenue windfall, partly from inflation and partly from the successful Trump tax cuts. According to the CBO, deficits are going up $16 trillion over the next 10 years. Publicly held debt will come to 110% of GDP, and federal spending will exceed 23% of GDP, way above the 50-year average. Now, of course, there's no mention of supply-side incentives, maybe from deregulation, not just from energy, but deregulating business in general, but it's not there. Meanwhile, usual Biden mean, it's the opposite of Iowa nice, Biden mean, falsehoods. He says the economy stalled when he took office. But in fact, the fourth quarter of 2020 increased 4.5%, and the first quarter of 2021 increased 6.3%. That was the Trump legacy. That's why the March 2021 stimmy was unnecessary and highly inflationary. The economy was already growing very rapidly. Biden wrote about families increasing their savings, but in fact, the saving rate for April that just came in at 4.4%. That's way lower than the 12.6% saving rate of a year ago. He talked about improving consumer confidence, but unfortunately, the latest Conference Board and University of Michigan surveys show substantial declines in consumer confidence. And meanwhile, after tax, after inflation, real disposable income, well, that's fallen 6% over the past 12 months. Real wages are down 13 months in a row. Now, Biden, of course, took yet another poke at Donald Trump, saying, quote, "My predecessor demeaned the Fed," end quote. But in fact, nobody could figure out why Jay Powell increased the Fed's target rate 4 times in 2018 with an inflation rate below the Fed's target at only 1.9%. This was right after the Trump tax cuts were enacted, and the economy was actually growing at a 4% rate, again, with virtually no inflation. And President Trump had every reason to be cross at the Fed chair that he appointed. Biden couldn't resist his attack on successful people, once again calling for a confiscatory wealth tax and punitive international taxes on American companies. So here we go again. Higher taxes will reduce inflation. Really? Actually, higher tax rates will reduce economic growth incentives and will lead to supply-side inflation increases. So there's no inflation reset for Mr. Biden today. It's Vladimir Putin's fault. We're going fossil-free instead of increasing oil and gas production. We're going to keep on federal spending and borrowing and debt creation, and none of this is going to hurt the economy or working folks one bit. But we're going to let Jay Powell tighten as much as he wants because there'll be no economic consequences. Got to tell you, folks, I'm not buying it. I am glad the cavalry's coming.